What is up, everyone? I'm Ryan from Fireside Knicks, and in today's episode, not a game in between this podcast and the last one, so we're going to be focusing a lot on some news that's been going on around with the Knicks, and more importantly, this big game against the Nuggets. Because look, I know the Nuggets have been kind of slumping lately. I know they're coming off a win against the Pistons, but lately they haven't played so hot. But it's Nikola Jokic, man. That man is the two-time MVP. Very likely to be a third-time MVP. I mean, 3 times in a row is... You don't even see... 3 MVPs is tough in general. 3 times in a row is unprecedented. That's, very rarefied air. But it's a tough matchup for the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks are going to be... They're going to be pushed here. But we have plenty of stuff we have to talk about before we get into that game. More importantly with Jalen Brunson, because that's arguably our best player. And you definitely want Jalen Brunson in a matchup against the Nuggets. But Dylan has us with some updates on Jalen Brunson. Dylan, first off, how are you doing today, my friend? And number 2, tell us what's going on with Jalen Brunson, my man.
Right, so I'm doing great first off, Big game against the Nuggets coming up, and we do have some news, like you said. So Fred Katz of The Athletic, he tweeted about an hour ago that Brunson went through practice today. He went through it completely according to Tom Thibodeau, and so it sounds like, according to him, that there's a chance he could play tomorrow against Denver. So far, Tom Thibodeau said he'd be questionable, so not definitely confirmed if he'll play, but there's definitely a higher chance of that than what we just saw in the West Coast trip, because it was pretty clear he wasn't going to play. After he got hurt in Sacramento, it was kind of clear he wasn't going to play the rest of the West Coast trip. So this is good news on that front. They also said that Brunson's injury was actually a bone bruise, according to Jalen Brunson himself, and the Knicks had him on the injury report as a sore left foot. So I'm not sure if that what that's supposed to mean, but that's definitely something to keep an eye on. A bone bruise, none of those injuries are good things, but I guess Brunson kind of, if there was anybody to trust with that injury news, it would be him himself, because he was the one who was in fact injured. But it's glad to see, bottom line, it's glad to see he went through practice, because, I'm sure all week we've been anticipating whether or not he was going to play. And so, this is definitely great news on that front. Obviously, we'll probably know a lot more tomorrow when it comes closer to game time. They have an afternoon game tomorrow at 1 o'clock, so we'll probably find out really early tomorrow if he'll end up playing or not. But, that's good news to start the day. So that's big to see because, like you said, tough matchup against Denver. Denver's got all their guys healthy. They got Jokic playing. Aaron Gordon's also been having a good year. Jamal Murray's there as well. They got all their guys, so it's a tough matchup. Denver's still number 1 in the West. I know they've been slumping lately, but they're still a good team. So, you want to win these games. I know we just went 2-3 in our last 5, but we have won the last 2, so we're coming back home on the right foot, which is a good sign right there. So things are turning up again. I know things looked a little bleak in the past week with that losing streak, and we kind of got worried a little bit, like, oh no, are we going to fall apart again? They've turned it around quickly, and winning those last 2 games was huge, and getting Brunson back will be a huge step into going down this final stretch with our entire roster healthy, all hands on deck, pushing it down for that final 11-game stretch we have, because we actually have a fairly easy schedule the rest of the way. I know we have Denver on Saturday, but then I know we have games against like the Heat, the Magic, the Rockets, teams that you have to win against straight up. You got to beat those guys. I know the Heat are kind of in that 7th seed, but they have been pretty inconsistent all season long. You got to take advantage of that. I'm looking at the schedule right now, so they have Denver on Saturday, and then they play the Timberwolves at home on the Monday. Then they go back to Miami and play Miami on Wednesday the 22nd and have a back-to-back against Orlando the following day. Then they play Houston and then Miami again and then Cleveland on the road. That's how they close out the rest of the month. Some of those games are winnable games. You can beat a Timberwolves team that has been kind of just middle-of-the-pack type team all year. They've been floating 500. They haven't had Karl-Anthony Towns for most of the year, and they probably still won't have him when we come around to play them. So big games coming up. They definitely can close out this final stretch strong, though, because they have a fairly favorable matchup the rest of the way. So looking at that, we have a good chance to claim that 4th seed. I almost said reclaim that 4th seed. They've technically never reclaimed the 4th seed yet, but they've come very close, and we've seen that. They still are relatively close. They're not that far away out of it. They're only like 2.5 games out of that 4th spot, and I know they have a game and a half on Brooklyn now because they lost last night, so that's also huge going down that. So right now the 5th seed's looking pretty comfortable for us, but We need to hope we can just hold on to that 5th seed at least at the bare minimum. And if we can continue to get hot, take that 4th seed over Cleveland, that would be really nice. But, we did get good news with Brunson, so that's very good. We have a lot of good things to talk about with that regard. So I'm really happy that we were able to start the day off with some good news because, like I said, we were definitely anxiously waiting to see if Brunson was going to be available. We were really, really waiting to hear good news about Brunson because all week it's been about just, oh, he's unavailable or, oh, he's getting better. But now this is a major step that he actually went through practice and went through it without, at least according to our knowledge as far as we go, without any issues. So that's huge right there on that front, and I'm hoping that it leads to him playing tomorrow. We'll find out later on, but it's a good sign to start the day for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned kind of the Knicks' schedule, how important Brunson is. The Nets play Cleveland. They played Cleveland twice after playing the Nuggets and then play the Heat. They also have matchup against, the Rockets, the Magic. Their end of the schedule is not too tough. Their final game is against the 76ers, though I don't know how hard the 76ers are going to try. It depends on how the East kind of looks. If the 76ers go on a tear and they're right in that mix with the 1 seed, I imagine that's going to be a really big game for them. But if they go on a slide, even if they go on the slide, they'd probably play really hard for that game because you don't know if the Cavs have surged or not. So I imagine, actually, I'm going to take that comment back. I imagine the 76ers are going to play that game and do so very intensely. But the big thing here is, Jalen Brunson, as you mentioned, is a catalyst for this team to space the floor. He's a shot creator. He's consistent. You know what you're getting with him. He does a lot of things that the Knicks really, struggle to do well without him. I know Emmanuel Quickley is filling in his role, and he's done an amazing job at the point guard spot. But it's not about Emmanuel Quickley not being good enough. It's more so Emmanuel Quickley can't run with that second unit as much, so your second unit gets worse. You just are I don't think I have to get into the logistics of why you're a worse team without Jalen Brunson, but I can definitely get into the logistics of why Jalen Brunson and this Knicks team, with these guys playing the way they're playing right now, can go and face anyone and win. So, this game's huge. Jalen Brunson's health is huge. A lot of encouraging signs there. We'll have to wait and see kind of as we get closer to game time what that looks like. But another real big, not a huge story. It's not one of those things where we're looking at it and saying, this will end the season. It's is a locker room issue. But Mitchell Robinson did have some interesting comments to say on his Snapchat story where he was, just to kind of paraphrase a little bit here, he seemed unhappy with the lack of offensive touches. Now, we know that Mitchell Robinson is someone who, has interesting tweets or Snapchat stories. He's an interesting fellow, to say the least. But I'm not saying I don't want that this isn't a big deal story, but I feel like this is something that this team is equipped in terms of, the personnel on the roster, the head coach that Tibbs is, right? For as much as people can criticize his offensive system, his stubbornness, whatever it may be, he has seemed to click with these guys. I don't think he has a tolerance for BS. And I think that, he can definitely, I don't view this as a massive issue going forward. It is kind of interesting. It is something that, is worth talking about. So, Dylan, what did you think about those comments from Mitchell Robinson? What do you think that means going forward? And do you think it's going to be a recurring issue, or do you think it's kind of quiets itself down?
Right, so, he obviously had some interesting things to say. He said, I have his Snapchat story pulled up here. He said, quote, "Tired AF of just being out there for cardio, fam. I just want to play basketball to really just wasting my time and energy." So clearly he's upset about, the lack of touches. I think he followed that post up with disappearing for a while. So like you said, he's upset with the lack of touches. And, quite frankly, I understand his frustration because he is an integral piece of the team, but at the same time, I also understand why he hasn't been getting as many touches lately because, quite frankly, Isaiah Hartenstein has outplayed him lately. Hartenstein will put up 0 points, but he'll still be more impactful on defense, and he'll get a lot of rebounds. I don't know what, players go through slumps all the time, so I'm not too worried about Mitch, but I can see why Hartenstein's been getting more opportunity than him lately. The defense has been, it's been way different. We saw Mitch was struggling to handle AD against the Lakers for a lot of that game. Hartenstein came in and just had him in a box, And I know Hartenstein's had his struggles this season. I know he started out the season slow. He's been up and down, but he's been relatively consistent since about late January, So, and I think Hartenstein deserves to be rewarded for that. And I think it's been showing that, with him getting more playing time. With Robinson's comments, though, I hope it doesn't become too much of a distraction because, quite frankly, I don't think it's worth a big distraction considering how this team is rolling right now and how all the pieces are clicking. I don't think it's, really a good time to have a bad distraction right now. from what I saw earlier, the Knicks did not make Mitchell Robinson available to the media today after practice, probably for a good reason. They need, kind of just need to clear his head up a little bit, get him to understand, like, hey, we have a team here to run. We have important things to take care of. We have a playoff push to be making. We need you a part of this team. We need you to have your head right. We need you to be able to, contribute in any way that we ask you to contribute. And I'm hoping they can get that to him because, like you said, it seems like they have like a zero tolerance policy when it comes to these things. They're not here to mess around with this kind of stuff. They're not here to entertain these kind of comments. They're here to win games. They're all about business, right? So, bottom line, I'm hoping it doesn't become too much of a distraction. It's not like a big deal, but it's also at the same time something you can't ignore because, like, this isn't the first time Mitch has made comments like these. He's kind of done this before in the past, and, we kind of just bypassed it. But, like, the team's successful now, so we can't really keep affording to have that kind of, like, mentality, I guess, on this team, because Mitch is important to the team. That doesn't go overlooked. He's important to the team. He's a really good shot blocker, great offensive rebounder. So we need him, right? And we need him to have his head right, because if his head's not right, then his game won't translate either. So we just need him to be able to just, relax a little bit, find his, hopefully the team tells him, like, we need you to have your head right. We need you to, just any way we ask you to contribute, just come through when we need you to. We know Mitchell Robinson's offensive game is kind of limited, but he's still an impactful piece. That doesn't just go overlooked and say he's not impactful. He's still an impactful player. He's still a good player when we need him to be one. So, we just need him to kind of just settle down with this. I know it's frustrating for any player to lose playing time, but at the end of the day, this is a team effort. So I think he kind of needs to acknowledge, like, this is a team effort. It's not just about me. I think a good example of that is, like, look at, like, Derrick Rose and Evan Fournier. They lost their playing time this season, and they've been pretty professional about it. They haven't had any bad comments to say, and whenever they've been asked to come into games and step up, they've done it. They've done it, and then when they go take a seat again, once they have to go sit back down, they don't complain about it. They accept it, and they know this team. They know that at the end of the day, the NBA is a business. You have to win games. You have to play your best roster out there. I think they're setting a good example with that. I'm hoping that can get toward Mitch. Mitch is a young guy, so Mitch will definitely learn, as he gets older, and he'll mature in that regard. But, I understand the frustration. I do. I can't imagine how difficult it is for any NBA player to lose playing time, especially when you're being told basically that you're considered an impactful piece and then you lose playing time. That feels like a stab in the back, right? But it happens sometimes, and sometimes you just have to play the guys that are just contributing more. It's just how sports work. It's how the NBA works. And for Hartenstein, he deserves this playing time right now. He deserves this opportunity. He's been playing his tail off all year, so he deserves this. And quite frankly, I'm glad to see he's getting that opportunity. Yes, I feel awful for Mitch, but he does need to also understand that it is a business and we need to win games. It's not just about him. You know what I mean? There's not much, like I said, his offensive game is limited. There's not many options you can really do to run an offense through him. He's a lob threat on offense. That's just bold, plain fact. That's not like, disrespecting his game. He's a great offensive rebounder, and that's why we need him on the floor at times. So that, he is impactful. There's just certain things that we have to kind of work around to make the team better. Because at the end of the day, a team, an NBA team is not one guy. An NBA team is 13 guys. So you have to kind of just, go with the flow of what's going on with the team, go with the direction team, and be happy that your team is succeeding. You're a contributing factor on a winning team. That should be a good feeling. I saw Chandler Parsons made some pretty interesting comments about Mitchell Robinson the other day. And he said, like, oh, he's got no game. He's not like he's going to go out there and get you buckets. Like I said, his offensive game is limited. It's just a fact. But he's impactful. To go as far, this isn't like saying anything about what Chandler Parsons said, because I know Chandler Parsons was just being a little more broad about it. But, like, to kind of like say Mitchell Robinson is not impactful is just a false statement. He is impactful. If you watch the games, you will see how much of a difference he actually makes for the Knicks and why the Knicks are able to win these games despite being a low efficient team, a low assist number team, a not great shooting team, all this good stuff. So, and a lot of that is to Mitchell Robinson. But, you also can't have comments like these distract you from what's gotten you to this point. And I hope the Knicks don't let that happen, because I know Mitchell Robinson is not viewed as just like some small piece on the roster. No, he's viewed as, like I said, he's viewed as an integral piece. So the Knicks can't let like what these comments he said distract them from what's gotten to them to this point, because right now we're the 5th seed. I don't think anybody imagined we would be the 5th seed this late in the season with only 11 games left, and the Knicks can't let that go. So they cannot let these comments distract them from that. I think that's like the big bottom line right there. I'm just hoping they can get that to Mitch and tell him, like, we need you. We really need you. So we need you to be in the right headspace for this down the stretch.
Yeah, I think you put that perfectly. Mitchell Robinson is not just a solid player to have. No disrespect to Isaiah Hartenstein, but you're just, that's a nice player to have, but it's not an integral part of your team. If your team relies on Isaiah Hartenstein to perform well in order to succeed, your team is not going to, go very far. And you mentioned, being in a position where we're the 5th seed. We're the 5th seed in a very stacked Eastern Conference. Very good Eastern Conference. I know the Nets falling off a little bit because they traded a couple guys, affects that, but it's not like they went from super team to the Orlando Magic, or even the Orlando Magic have played better since the calendar year. So it's not like we're going from elites. It's not like you have a bunch of give-me's. A lot of these teams can fight, claw. A lot of these teams are pretty quality teams. Miami would probably be right in the thick of that 5th seed, 4th seed hunt in the West, and here they're buried in the 7th seed. So as you mentioned, Mitchell Robinson is so impactful. The rim protection, the Knicks are not the same without Mitchell Robinson. We've seen their defense without Mitchell Robinson. It's not good. It's not. Mitch is an anchor there, and even if he isn't getting touches, man, offensively, he can still go out there and be an elite defender. And honestly, that's what he needs to do in the postseason, the playoffs. If he gets 3 field goal attempts, but he's playing elite defense, I don't even care if he misses all 3 of them. I mean, I might care, obviously, because you'd rather him make than miss them. But, if he's not much of a factor at all offensively, but he's able to go out there and put up really, really good defensive numbers and be an anchor for this team, considering that, Brunson and Brown are going to be exhausting themselves offensively, quickly maybe doing the same. Barrett's going to be doing the same. It's going to be useful. It's going to be beyond useful. It's going to be super impactful. And to kind of comment on those comments from Chandler Parsons, I just want to clarify, if you're someone like, I'm not saying that Chandler Parsons was, saying that he's not a good NBA player, but the implication is definitely there. I just want to clarify, Mitch Robinson's a very good NBA player. He's a really quality center. The off-the-field stuff, this is obviously not ideal, but to those saying, first off, Nets fans who were, when the Claxton Mitchell Robinson thing happened, where he tweeted, "I'm the best center in New York," and Nets fans like, "Oh, you're not that good." No, he is that good. He is that good. He's been that good for his entire tenure here. For people who are saying, "Oh, look at him, he shot 2 for 8 this night." And he played elite defense. And for most of the year, that's not the numbers he's been putting up. If you want to go out and criticize Mitchell Robinson's, if you want to say that Mitchell Robinson should be, he should control his comments a little bit more in the public. If he has frustrations, air that out in the locker room, keep that in the locker room. I 100% agree. But if you want to sit here, if we're going to sit here making a criticism about his game, if we're going to sit here and talk like this isn't a guy who the Knicks look like a completely different defense without him, then we're getting a little bit insane here. So Chandler Parsons, first off, no disrespect to you. You played in the NBA. I have not. I'm 5'8". There's no shot I ever could have. You don't know the game of basketball, my friend, if you think that that's not a good basketball player right there. And to Mitchell Robinson, I love the man still. You just gotta let's be a little smarter with the comments. This is not a distraction we want, especially as you mentioned, 11 games left to go in the season. Still in the 5th seed is not a sure thing, right? The 4th seed is the 5th, 4th, whatever seed. It's not a sure thing, right? You're gonna have to fight for the 4th seed. You're gonna have to fight to keep that 5th seed, because I'm telling you, Brooklyn is not. They're not too keen on giving the Knicks a chance to face Cleveland in the first round. I believe there was a report that Cleveland said, people in that locker room want to face the Nets in that first round. So the Knicks are feared. So let's keep that going.
Right. And Mitchell Robinson too, I think, to bring up Mitch one more time here, he was an important piece of that 9-game winning streak we just came off of. We went 8-6 in the 14 games without him, which is a great record, yes. But then he came back and we didn't lose for a good 2 to 3 weeks. And I'm not saying Mitch was the only reason, of course not, but he's a big reason. He was a big reason. So, he is an impactful NBA player that should not go overlooked at all. He is impactful. I know he's not, the guy who will light up the scoreboard or the box score. He'll get a good amount of rebounds, yes, but I know he's not the type to get you 30 points. That's been how he's been though for his 4 or 5 years in the league. That's just how he's been. And the Knicks signed him to a big contract in the offseason because they view him as an important piece. They, even if he doesn't score a lot, they view him as someone that is important to this core, to this team that we have right now, and they view him as part of the future. That's what they do. They didn't sign him just to sign him. They signed him because they think he's important. And I do think he is important. Comments like these, you don't want them to distract the team. You do not. And, maybe he should control these comments a little more. I understand the frustration. Trust me. I never have played in the NBA, but I can only imagine when you're in the NBA and you're on a winning team, you want to contribute, right? You want to be a massive contributor, and I'm sure that's what Mitchell Robinson wants to be. But he is a massive contributor. I know he doesn't get a lot of touches on offense, but we run an offense through our stars. We run the offense through Brunson, Randall, Barrett, Quickly, guys like that. That's just how it is. That's what's got us to this point. It's resulted in winning. So, you're not going to change up the scheme to get Mitch more touches when the scheme we've worked right now is working. That's just how it is. There are other players, like I mentioned, Rose and Fournier, for example. They're out of the rotation. I can tell you right now, Evan Fournier probably wants to play more than anybody else. Every time they've asked him about it, he always says, "I want to play, but I understand, what Thibodeau is doing." He played in the game against the Sixers. And he did well. And then they asked Fournier after the game if he thinks he would get back in rotation after that. And he said no, he doesn't think so because he thinks Thibodeau is pretty certain with running this 9-man rotation. And he acknowledged the fact that it's worked. So, that's an example right there of someone who's, he's taking a back seat, but he's accepting that because he knows that it's leading the team to success and he wants to see the team be successful. And I'm sure Mitchell Robinson wants to see the team be successful more than anybody else. I don't doubt that at all. I'm just hoping he can understand that it's more of a team effort, not a only you problem. Like, it's not a target at you. It's what makes the team better. Any change they can make that makes the team better is what they'll do. Even if it, whether it involves Mitchell Robinson or not. When RJ Barrett was struggling, RJ Barrett saw the floor less. It happens. That's just what you got to do to continue winning games. It's a long season. Players are going to get tired. Players are going to slump. It happens. That's just how sports work, So I'm just hoping that he can understand that more. Mitchell Robinson, who I'm talking about, I'm hoping he can understand that more and realize that this is a team effort. And, if he's forced to have to take a bit of a back seat, I'm hoping he can understand it's for the better of the team's success and that, at the end of the day, that's what's important. If the team is successful, then everyone will be happy. They'll understand. That's what Rose and Fournier have done. I feel like they could be someone that can kind of teach Mitchell Robinson, hey, this is what we've had to do. We understand it. If you can kind of understand it more and see why they do these things, they do it for the team's success, and you'll see that it'll pay off. You just have it's a bit of it can be frustrating. I understand it's frustrating, but that's just how it works. So yeah, that's really all I had to say about that.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree, man. And I think, going into, and this is kind of a good segue for this, going into this Nuggets matchup, Nikola Jokic, man. It's not like this assignment's about to get a lot easier for Mitch. So, Jokic, I can say a lot of things about Nikola Jokic. He can shoot the three when needed. He's a ridiculous playmaker. He's not even just good for a center. He's one of the best playmakers just flat out in general in the NBA. He's a triple-double machine. He's not someone who's going to light up the scoreboard in terms of points the way that Giannis or Embiid or Tatum or any of those guys will. But he's the definition of he just makes the right basketball play every single time. And while that may not be statistically appealing to some people, it certainly does. It certainly does the job of getting wins. It certainly does the job of player impact. So, this is a tough matchup for the New York Knicks. I know Jamal Murray has had his struggles, with consistency offensively, but we know that on any given night, Jamal Murray can torch you, right? And we know that the Knicks aren't the, especially with Jalen Brunson. It's not like Jalen Brunson's the best defender in the world. He knows how to take charges, but you feel like this could be an offensive shootout. The Nuggets are not a great defensive team either. Jokic has struggled a lot defensively lately. He's not someone that you necessarily look at, again, not like a Giannis in the sense that he's an elite defender. But again, he's just kind of, the way to describe Nikola Jokic is that he just, it makes like the team just plays six so much better when he plays, and that's why he's won his MVPs, right? Not to like discredit him or anything like that. I'm a big Jokic guy, but he's not, he's not someone that you're gonna sit here and say, oh well, he's gonna torch you for 50, but he's going to be a threat. He's going to be someone you're scared of all game. He's going to be someone that's gonna make life hell for the Knicks on defense and on offense. And it's going to be a tough matchup, but, I feel like you're catching the Nuggets at a good time. We caught the Nuggets at a good time last time because he had COVID, right? Obviously, I don't wish COVID on anyone, but for the purposes of the Knicks winning, it helped their odds, right? So in this case as well, they're slumping a little bit. Their defenses have been the sharpest. They're going to be playing a back-to-back, but we won't get the back-to-back game. The Nets will. The Nets have beaten them already. So we've kind of seen that they can be susceptible to losing to teams that are in that caliber or in that tier of teams. Jalen Brunson, we talked about him. He's coming back hopefully he comes back from injury, but I feel like that's the player you have to look at that night. I feel like you can push the floor, you can push the tempo, you can really drop a lot of points on this Nuggets team, and then when Jokic is off the court, I feel like our bench can go just destroy these guys. That's another thing too. You have Jalen Brunson. Quickly's going to run with that second unit a lot. So I look at Quickly. I look at Brunson. Brunson's, I'm saying, is the guy to watch just because if he's there, it makes Quickly available off the bench. And so I'm going to say I'm talking about Brunson, but really this is a Quickly segment for me. Emmanuel Quickly, that bench for the Nuggets, that defense for the Nuggets, Emmanuel Quickly's going to go off. I almost died there. I got so excited about Emmanuel Quickly, I almost choked on the air. Emmanuel Quickly is going to go off. I feel it. I feel it in my bones. 20 plus points, bunch of assists, bunch of boards. Just go out there and just dash, slice and dice, hit some big threes. I feel like this is This is going to be another just excellent game for Emmanuel Quickly. I feel like this final 11 game stretch is going to be that push, that like cementing like, no. This isn't a debate. Emmanuel Quickly is the sixth man of the year. Just that like kind of like that Celtics game kind of pushed him ahead of Brogdon a little bit, or put him at least tied with Brogdon. I think this game is going to be another highlight moment for him to push himself in the sixth man of the year conversation. And also it's just a favorable matchup, I think, for him, considering that the bench guards for the Nuggets aren't the best defenders in the world. They aren't a great defensive team in general. And you're going to get Emmanuel Quickly minutes with Jokic off the court or Murray off the court.
No, yes, I definitely agree. Brunson's definitely something to watch. Coming off an injury, you can't expect him to be the exact same off rip. That's just flat out how it is. You missed 5 games. You weren't really doing a whole lot during those 5 games. So I can't expect Brunson to go like absolutely nuclear off rip. He might start off the game slow. Maybe he just has an off game. But, he's definitely someone to watch for, because if he does feel right, like completely right, he could have a big game. Like you said, Nuggets are not a great defensive team, so he can easily feast off that and take advantage of that and score big buckets inside in the mid-range, 3-point. Where he's an elite 3-level scorer. I think we know that by now, so I can definitely see Brunson going off for that, but I can also see Brunson having an off game. He's coming off an injury. It's not easy to do. Coming off an injury and you're expected to do a lot, you can't just expect him to do a whole lot. He might not even get the same minutes off rip just because he missed all those games, and you need his health for the playoffs, right? But it's still an important game to win, so he will play a lot. But you also, I think you can't set the bar too high and can't expect Brunson to just drop 40. Like if he doesn't drop 40 or if he doesn't drop 30, you can't be disappointed necessarily in that, because like then you're setting the bar too high. He just came back from an injury that he missed an entire week and a half for. He tried to play in a game against Sacramento, and he did great in that game, and then he got hurt again. He had to get taken out, and we didn't see him again the rest of the West Coast trip. So you just got to be patient with that, because eventually we've seen how Brunson plays this year. He will kick it up a notch when he needs to. Who knows? Maybe he'll come right back from this injury and just be right where he left off, and that would be phenomenal. But to touch on quickly, I could see him having a big game as well. Like you said, their bench does not really compare a whole lot to us. They don't have a deep bench. They don't have a great defensive unit at all. So I can definitely see quickly having another great game. He's been, just tremendous over the past 5 games. In the games that Brunson's missed, he's been tremendous. Minus the one game against Sacramento where he shot like 1 of 11, couldn't make anything. It's a bad game. Everyone has a bad game once in a while. And given how well Quickly has played, he gets a pass on that, in my opinion, because he played just phenomenal in when he needed to. He's stepped up when he's need to. A bad game will happen. But other than that one game, he's been great. He's been scoring 20 plus points pretty much just normally every night. Like, it's become routine now to do that for him. And like you said, I definitely think this will like emphasize the 6-man convo as like he's the winner. He's the guy who should be the sixth man because like you'll see like quickly impacts the Knicks more than like Brogdon does with the Celtics. Like I think I mentioned this in our last episode, but Brogdon feels more like just an additional piece with the Celtics, right? You kind of know that even if he's not there, the Celtics will still be really good because they would still have Jason Tatum, they still have Jalen Brown, they still have Marcus Smart, still have Derek White, still have Robert Williams, those guys like that. And that's not discrediting Brogdon. Brogdon's a really good player, and I thought he was a really good addition for the Celtics in the offseason. But you kind of just feel like, even if they were to not have Brogdon, they would still be pretty good. With the Knicks, if they don't have Quickly, they don't have a second unit at all. And I think that completely erases the depth this team has. Like, I feel like Quickly is like the guy that solidifies the depth of this team. He's the guy that like reinforces that. Like he's on that team, so it's like, okay, now we got to watch for him because now they have a deep team. Now you're looking at a team that has 3 20-point per game scorers in the starting lineup, and then you have this guy who can easily put up another 20 off the bench just with ease, And I know Brogdon can do that too, but I think like I mentioned, there's a big difference because if Quickly's not on the Knicks, you take away the depth completely. Brogdon makes Celtics deep, yes, but you feel like the Celtics could still kind of do just fine without him. I mean, they made the finals last year without him. That should be a kind of clear example right there. I know, and again, not discrediting Brogdon. He's been phenomenal, but Quickly's just been so good and so impactful these past couple months, and I think the defenses don't really compare either. I think, Quickly is a guy who not only can be your best scorer on a given night, but be your best defender on a given night. I don't think Brogdon can really be your best defender and best scorer at the same time. I can't see that personally. And Brogdon's a strong guy. He can finish, and he's very efficient, yes, but when you're able to impact both sides of the ball at a high level, I think that goes a long way. I don't know if the voters of the sixth man award will take that into consideration. I think they should, because Quickly is, quite frankly, been one of the best defensive guards, not just off as a reserve, but among all guards in the NBA. Really, he's been one of the best defensive guards in the entire NBA this year. So I think things like that go a long way, and I do think that should be taken into consideration when they choose sixth man of the year. And that's why I think Quickly provides more of an impact for the Knicks and reinforces their depth more than like Brogdon does with the Celtics. So yeah.
Yeah, the end of the day, I agree. I think I full-heartedly agree with your take about Quickly's impact. I view him as the guy to watch today. Not today. Against the Nuggets. Not even when this comes out, because this is not coming out the day the Nuggets play. We play the Nuggets. So, the way I view it is this is an important game for the Knicks. I think Quickly's he's red hot. So, I just kind of view it as I know he's had one, I think it was against maybe it was the Clippers that he had not a great shooting night, but
it was Sacramento. He went 1 of 11 against Sacramento.
But for the calendar year, he's been unbelievable. So I'm sticking with Emmanuel Quickly, man. But I'm really excited for that matchup. I think it's going to be a good litmus test. It's again, last 11 games. This is competitive basketball, guys. You should start getting a playoff feel. It's going to be at Madison Square Garden, if I'm not mistaken, too. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Again, guys, you should start getting into that playoff environment because 11 games, big games. We face off against the Cavs. If we are within striking distance of the Cavs and we beat them, we have the season series, and we'd be tied with them, and we'd have the season series. We'd be ahead of them because of the tiebreaker. This is some real basketball, guys. This is no longer, they lose, okay, we got to move on. Oh, they win, all right, well, move on to tomorrow night. It's hey, every win and loss now is huge for this team. Every game this team plays is going to define their season. So I'm really excited. Dylan, I don't know if you have any more final thoughts because, that's really all I have to say. This is starting to become playoff basketball, man.
No, I definitely agree. This is becoming like playoffs. This isn't like last year where, we were kind of just letting Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickly just get the ball every possession, and we were letting Obi Toppin score 42 points. This isn't like that from last year. This is now playoff time. This is we're playing all of our guys. You're going to witness winning basketball. We're here at the Garden. We're going to show that we can win anywhere we go because they already are great on the road. They've had their home struggles this year, but they've definitely turned it around over the past couple months. I'm just hoping they can continue to play well at home because they got some home games down this final stretch. They have the one against Denver, and then they have another home game against Minnesota and a couple more home games as the season wraps up. And, in the playoffs, you want to perform well in your home games, because they've done well on the road this year, yes, but in the playoffs, it's a completely different environment. It's a team that you don't want to play in the playoffs. You don't want to play against teams that the high-seeded teams in the playoffs on the road, those are going to be tough ones because those crowds are rowdy, those crowds are fierce. They know their team is very close to the finals, so they're looking to win these games, win those series. So the Knicks kind of just, take advantage of these games at home. Hopefully it gets you to that 4th seed because then you can get the home court advantage, and then you can have the rowdy fans get in the other team's head, right? But at the end of the day, if they don't get the 4th seed and they have to settle for 5th, that's fine. They just need to be able to continue to keep winning on the road, keep winning at home, keep winning anywhere they go. You don't want to take your foot off the gas. That's one big thing. I know we always wrap up our episodes with me saying keep their foot on the gas. They got to keep their foot on the gas. They've won these last 2 games. They got to keep it going. Start up a new winning streak. A 2-game win streak is pretty minuscule, but if you win here, you're looking at a 3-game win streak. Then you start talking about a legitimate winning streak. So if they can keep their foot on the gas, we've got another winning streak on our hands, and we'll get into the playoffs off a very good note, which would be huge entering postseason. But yeah, that's pretty much my final point on that.
Yeah, man. Look, first off, I know I'm smiling a lot this episode because there's some, the Mitchell Robinson news wasn't great, ideally, right? But there's a lot to smile about this New York Knicks team, and I'm just you're talking about, you mentioned playoff basketball, Madison Square Garden, man. I can't wait. But with that being said, guys, thank you guys so much for checking us out. You guys have been great with the support lately. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure to check out the Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and our YouTube page right here. Obviously, that's how you're watching this. Unless you're listening to this, then give us a 5-star rating. That'd be great. But with that being said, you guys know you guys can check us out on our Twitters. They're above our heads. This time, I will not screw up the graphic and put me under Dylan's @ and Dylan under my @ But with that being said, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you guys know when we have our new episodes. And, of course, have a great day. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace out.